MarcelloMania, episode Dustin Pedroia. You should know, episode 15. My buddy Chris back on the podcast. We talk some New York stuff. We talk baseball. We get to the NFL draft. He's a Packers fan, so we hit on what the Packers did, the whole Davante Adams situation, and we hit on the NHL playoffs. His first round action is underway. So I hope you listen, watch, and enjoy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back in MarcelloMania, and by now it's a familiar face. Not me. It's Chris Poolboy Borschwitz. He's back on. I believe this is his third appearance. We've been running around. He's been staying busy. He is in his work season. He's getting all busy, but we're excited to have him back on. Chris, thanks for jumping back on, man.
Hey, no problem. No problem. I didn't realize we were recording already. My bad. Yeah, we're in the middle of our beginning of our baseball season, so I'm not tired at all. Nothing like no sleep ever and not a day off for the next 3 weeks. But I love what I do, and ball is life,
For anyone who doesn't know, Chris works in baseball. So if you know anything about baseball, they play at least 6 days a week, just about every week. So
yes.
We will definitely talk about some baseball, but first, we're coming off the heels of the NFL draft, and you're a Packers fan. So I wanted to get your opinion on what the Packers did in the draft. Were you pleased with it? What do you think they have to address post-draft?
Yeah, no, I was definitely pleased with the Packers draft this year. Obviously had some big holes to fill with losing Za'Darius and Davante Adams. There was a lot of questions considering how we've handled the draft the last few years, and I'd say the front office relationship with Aaron Rodgers. So I was really hoping when they let Davante Adams walk there and Za'Darius, there was a reason for it, and I think they went out and just right off the bat addressed those needs, which I'll talk about in just a second. I know Rodgers after round one was on Pat McAfee. He seemed pleased, so I like to think that even though it should be up to the front office to make the picks, I hope that Rodgers signed off on everything.
Right.
If he's going to run the ship and he's going to have to back it up, then I guess let him run the ship this time. So, they went right off the bat. They go out, they get that kid from Georgia, that linebacker, Quay Walker.
Yeah.
He's a monster. So I'm pumped for him. Georgia's defense was unreal last year. I think he'll make an immediate impact in the league, especially for our team. And then, Devontae Wyatt was a good pick with defensive tackle, also out of Georgia.
Right.
So it's not going to be much of a change for them as far as their helmet. It's going to look the same, just a different color with a G on it. So hopefully they'll be comfortable when they get in. And then they go out and they get Christian Watson from North Dakota State, which FCS school, but North Dakota State has just athletes.
Yeah.
Just looking right here, last year, he had 34 receptions for 732 yards, which is an average of 21 and a half yards. So it looks like Rodgers is a guy he can throw the ball too far, which is kind of Rodgers' bread and butter. Just get the ball out quick, got a quick guy, he can catch a deep ball. So I'm pretty pumped for that.
Yeah, and one of the I guess stories of the draft was just Georgia and the amount of players they had taken. I think it was 5 first rounders, but to get 2 of those Georgia defensive players on the Packers, that's going to be awesome. It was interesting that Nakobe Dean didn't end up going to like the 4th round in the Eagles, and he has some injury concerns. He's undersized, but people were thinking he was going to be a top 5 pick. He just fell. I feel like that could be a pick where a lot of teams are going to look back and be like, why didn't we take a chance on him? But yeah, you touched on the Davante situation. It's obviously been a few weeks now. That to just about everyone, I would imagine, came out of left field. Obviously, I'm sure your initial reaction was not great, but what do you think about it now that you've had some time to look at the big picture?
Still disappointed. It seemed pretty straightforward that, Rodgers coming back meant Davante was coming back, and I know they're buddies. Rodgers just said the other day he assumed, well, he didn't say assumed, he really truly thought that he was coming back.
Right.
I think trying to franchise tag him is ultimately what did it. Good for him getting paid. He deserves it. I'm not scared of the Raiders if we were to somehow face them in the Super Bowl.
Right.
But I mean, he did a lot of great for the team. I'm glad he didn't go over to the Vikings like Greg Jennings did. That definitely left a bad taste in my mouth. Same with Favre. um,
Yeah.
I, Everyone listening to this, I get a little salty when some of my favorite players from teams go to a rival. So
Well, I mean,
that's a me problem, though. I mean,
any
I
true
I can be bought. I take the money too.
well, yeah, we get older, we understand it, but any true
Yeah.
sports fan is going to be mad when their favorite player, and even not the favorite player, like a key player, goes to a rival. I mean, myself and a lot of Celtics fans are still very bitter at Judas Shuttlesworth going down there to Miami. So,
To be fair, shouldn't have blindsided you too much because he did do the same thing to Seattle. I think he was with Seattle when he came to you guys. But I get
it
it.
was a trade though. It was a trade.
Was it?
It was with
I
Milwaukee, and then it was with Seattle, and it was a
Well,
trade.
us now that I'm newly 32 years old, my brain's not, my memory is not the same it used to be.
Yeah, no, I mean, I hear you, but I can relate. Any true sports fan can relate to
Yeah.
being upset, especially a division rival. I mean, Packers Vikings, that's a big rivalry. I mean,
Yeah.
it is interesting though because you definitely forget a lot of times. We'll never forget now because they'll say it every broadcast. But that Carr and Adams were teammates at Fresno State in college. So I mean, that is should be a pretty good fit with Darren Waller, and then that Chandler Jones, that defense they're putting together out there in Oakland. We'll see if McDaniel's second time around can run the ship correctly. Vegas has been interesting on and off the field, that's for sure.
I would say I kind of really hope they do even better this coming year because watching those games on TV in Vegas
Oh yeah,
are just I said it the now that they're gonna have fans there this year, that intro to their first game
oh my gosh.
with fans, I remember texting a few people. I was like, every team should move to Vegas.
Well,
All
I don't know. People keep getting in trouble out there.
Yeah, I mean the A's are about to head out there, so who knows? Maybe baseball will get entertaining.
Oh man, dude, the AFC West is just going to be absolutely stacked. I mean, Russell Wilson's out in Denver now. Kansas City's Kansas City, and then you got the Chargers adding Khalil Mack to what they already had. I mean, that division. I'll be shocked if that's not top to bottom the best division in football.
And now you've got an added last year the added playoff team. They could have three teams.
Yeah, and it's going to be hard not to go back. You mentioned watching the Raiders game, that last game of the season, Sunday Night Football, when everyone was pulling for the tie, and they messed it
Oh,
up. The Chargers coach messed it up. So if you're a Chargers
man.
fan, which there's probably not many that are listening or watching this, but
Yeah,
what a scene that was.
really thought it was going to happen.
Oh, would have been so cool. Would have been so cool. First time it's available, and then it happens.
Statistically impossible to happen. They were talking about they threw out the number that I forget the percentage of it happening. It was basically impossible to happen, and we almost got it.
It says since we're talking about football, this is kind of random in a sense, but I'm pretty pumped for the Monday Night Crew because I know some
Oh
people
yeah,
have different takes, but I for a long time have enjoyed Buck and Aikman as a tandem the best. So I think Monday night that's going to breathe a lot of juice into that broadcast.
they're fantastic together. I think they're fantastic alone. I'm actually really pumped to that.
Yeah,
These guys. The way I look at the broadcasters is well, one before I trash anyone, I can't do that job. I'd be terrible. Um, Broadcasters I feel like there's no middle ground. They either just take away and just suck the fun out of the game, or they just add like Aikman and Joe Buck are fantastic together. You got guys
yeah,
like Gus Johnson, who's
yes.
our favorite guy, man. He somehow makes paint dry entertaining. And no, I'm pumped for that. I know there's a lot of Joe Buck haters out there. I'm a big Joe Buck guy.
I like
So
Buck. I like Buck, and
good.
I like him. I don't dislike him in baseball, but I would say I like him more in football than I do his other sports. But I do like Buck, and the Manning cast is cool.
Yeah.
Haven't watched any of the Aroyd cast yet, but that I would find myself watching the Manning cast sometimes because I didn't really enjoy the normal Monday Night Crew. And I think like and maybe it's just what I grew up on because I grew up on me and you like Steve Levy, he was ESPN hockey. So now I see him back covering hockey on ESPN. I'm like,
Fantastic.
I'm like, this is perfect. Like that's where my brain associates him. So maybe that's my fault for not buying into the Monday Night Crew, but I'm all on board on this new Monday Night Crew.
Yeah, I was so happy that ESPN got the NHL and the playoffs this year when they made that announcement. And I was actually just flat out just happy for Steve Levy
Oh
because
yeah.
that guy, he'd always make the jokes when he do Sports Center. He'd be like, "Oh, look, now we have a hockey highlight for once."
See,
And
ESPN had the handful, Butcher Gross, Cone. Some of those people are just like for a decade. Where's hockey?
yeah, and then like I turned the Ranger game on last night, and I just hear they're cutting in between because it was in between periods, and they're showing highlights and just hearing Steve Levy's voice, and I was like, "Good for him!
Yeah,
Good for
yeah.
him!
No,
Finally!"
that's where he belongs. We're gonna jump back to hockey. I'll give my quick thoughts on the Patriots draft. Obviously, they trade down, and I half jokingly said to my cousins earlier, I said I'll bet my life savings they trade down. Of course, I would never do that because I'm a wuss. And then they trade down, but it's my whole existence as a Patriots fan. They do it, and then they take Cole Strange out of Chattanooga. Oh, he might be a good player, and I've heard that there was a handful of teams. There was 3 or 4 teams that had him with a first round grade. It's
Yeah,
hard not to think they reached on him, even if he turns out to be a good player. And then just Belichick has obviously had some really, really good moves over the years, but he cannot draft a wide receiver to save his life. So I'm sorry, Tyquan Thornton, but I have no confidence in you. And that's purely based on Belichick drafting complete bust. I know he can fly like on paper. We we,
yeah.
we need some speed, so I hope he finally hits with this one. But I I just I don't know. I have zero confidence in Belichick drafting wide receivers. I mean, Edelman's their best receiver, and he was a converted quarterback. So I don't know how much
There,
credit you get there.
there are plenty of lacrosse players out there to go get.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
our new groundskeepers from up northeast, and he's bossing everything. And the morning of the draft, we had a game that day, so we didn't really get to watch it. Uh, but we had the group chat going of updates during the game of if anyone could pay attention to the draft.
right.
And I'll just never forget the game ended and the Pats pick came up. And that morning it said, everyone's asking, "Oh, who's your team going to draft? Who's your team going to draft?" And he goes, "Well, we're going to trade down." And then sure
Yep.
enough,
Every
Pats are
year.
on the board, and all of a sudden we see a text message and went, "Up, oh, there it is. That's my life."
Yeah. And,
So
and
at least get Belichick's dog involved again.
well, that was the thing. Like for a lot of years, they were, you know, the last 3 or 4. So you would literally sit around all night, and then
Yeah.
you get to like the last pick or second to last pick of the draft, and then you're like, all right, we're finally doing something. And then they trade out. You got to wait till the next day. But
Yep.
I was disappointed in general, I would say, because they did try to address the cornerback. They took a couple of guys later, one from Houston, I think one from Arizona State. But I really think they need a playmaking linebacker, and they haven't addressed that need. So we'll see. I mean, obviously they hit on some of the picks; those will make a big difference. Mac
Mhm.
Jones in his second year, but that linebacking playmaker position is one that I'm a little bit concerned about. But hopefully their secondary is just going to be that strong where it can bail them out of something. But let's shift back to hockey. We're talking about Levy, the broadcast crew. I am regrettably wearing my Bruins gear right now because I'll double check, but it was 3-0 in Game 2 in Carolina. This is Wednesday that we're recording this. So we're about to go down 0-2 unless some crazy comeback happens. I think we can make it a series, but to to be 0-2, it'll be hard to win it. So I hope the Bruins can at least push it to 6 or 7, show some life. You're a Rangers fan. A tough one last night against the Pens, but at the same time, it was right down to the wire. What are your thoughts on last night and in the series?
I was feeling really good at 2-0. Not just because we were up 2-0 with Igor and net, who just had one of the greatest single seasons of any goalie ever. I love you, Lundqvist, but don't miss you as much this very second because Igor just played out of his mind this year. Here, but we went up 2-0. We were just bullying them physically, and we had them on the ropes early in the second period. And then a buddy of mine texted me, "This is the year I finally feel it." I kid you not, less than 10 seconds later, the Penguins score a goal. It's still 2-1, and we did end up scoring. Well, they did tie it. Um, and then we scored and took the lead for a brief second after that. But they scored that first goal, the Penguins did, and the entire rest of the game, we were just on our heels. I did score a shorthanded goal, which put us up 3-2. I really thought that might kind of spur us along. Ultimately, we did, fall short. I kind of salty about the game-winning goal that got waved off. Haven't really gone back and looked at it too much because it was a late game and I got busy at work today. But I think the only upside is Igor rarely has a game like that where he gives up 3-4 goals. So I think in a 7-game series we'll still win. I know 5 seems like a stretch, a homer pick, but I think 6 games. Definitely, if we go to 7, I think we win that, especially with the home ice advantage. And I'm just hoping we've got such a young team, and we just went to triple overtime, so 2 full games essentially. And the Penguins, I believe, are the oldest team in the league. So I'm hoping, even though these are professional athletes and the Penguins are, these guys have won a lot, I'm hoping that a long first game is an advantage to us with youth and just being able to push, energy level wise.
I mean, that's a fair point. And the Rangers have been really good all season. Or the Penguins, Malkin, some of those guys have been battling injuries. But to your point, I mean, they're older. They get a little banged up. You think a little more. Maybe their legs are a little tired after some long games. I think that's going to be a great series. I'm looking at the score right now. Lightning are up 2-0 on the Maple Leafs. That should be a good series. I was texting you. I kind of want Toronto, but at the same time, them failing in every playoff series is
No.
very, very funny. So I wouldn't mind that happening again. The Colorado Avs, they come out with a 7-2 victory. I mean, they look like the team to beat. The Caps scored an empty netter last night to win 4-2. My Bruins just scored one, so they got a little
Oh,
life,
there you go.
3-1.
Hey, don't call it a comeback.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe it's just jumping on here, but the NHL playoffs, the biggest thing is just it's so weird because usually that starts a week or two before the NBA playoffs. So it was like I'm happy they're here now, but I was like sitting around waiting for them. But I mean, it's hard to compete with their playoffs. Every playoff is unique. MLB postseason is super unique. I think in terms of postseason play, hockey and baseball are probably way up there.
I totally agree. I mean, my eh, ranking sports and how much I follow them, I'd say it's baseball, football. NBA used to be right there. Now it's more hockey over NBA. But even when hockey was the thing I followed the least of everything I follow, um, it, there's nothing better than NHL playoffs. I mean, it stunk we lost last night, but you go into overtime, sudden death. It's
Yeah, you're hanging on
you
every
can't beat
pass.
that.
Like every time a guy turns the puck over, you're just like, oh my gosh, it's a different feeling. But speaking of baseball, you've been giving me a lot of crap, rightfully so.
No, no, I'm not.
Rightfully so. My Red Sox not doing too hot, and the Yankees are doing pretty well to start. But what's been the key to their success so far? Why they been? Is it their lineup? Is their pitching? Is everything kind of gelling early?
I think everything's just kind of gelling early. It's funny. I've been just I'm aware that I'm being ridiculous when I walk around at work and texting you like, "Oh, the Yankees are doing this good. They're on a 11-game win streak," and everyone at work's like, "Oh, I wasn't aware that the season ended in end of April." And I'm like, "Well, you didn't know that? Of course it does." But on the flip side, everyone was ready to, everyone after the first two games of the season, shoot, even after the first game, everyone's like, "Oh, that Garrett Cole contract, oh, it looks great right now." So, but
Spider
I
Tech.
think everything because I'm looking at their stats. There are players, Aaron Judge and Anthony Rizzo, that stand out. Nestor Cortez out of nowhere, I think is probably our best pitcher, which definitely helps because we don't have bad starting pitchers. But it just feels kind of middle of the road. And then obviously our bullpen, which with the expanded roster this year, every team's doing it. It's not just the Yankees. Every team is going bullpen like the fourth inning. Unless you got a guy throwing a no hitter or a perfect game, people are pulling early. I mean, just last week, watching the Yankees and Blues Guardians game, they mentioned it was the third time all season across the entire league, both starters made it to the seventh inning.
Wow.
And I know it's super early, but there's what, a couple hundred games between 31 teams, about 20 games into the season that have been played, and only three times had both starters made it to the seventh. And it's not like starting pitchers getting shelled every night. It's just expanding roster, taking advantage of it. So I think everyone's just kind of gelling. Obviously, it does help that we've got Anthony Rizzo and Aaron Judge just absolutely destroying the cover off of baseball. I'm not looking forward to this. Good for Judge betting on himself and not signing that contract, but now we're gonna be throwing a lot more money at him if this keeps up. But both him and Rizzo have 9 home runs. The Judge is just a shade over 300 on the season. And then I think honestly, the unsung hero of it all is we made that trade. We got rid of Gary, and everyone was talking because Josh Donaldson. Well, they threw an Isaiah Kiner Falefa into that trade, and no one's talking about it. And the guy's, I think, got our best batting average. He's batting 311, and he just seems to. I watch him on a nightly basis. He just keeps going. He's just consistent.
Right.
So I think it's just a good mesh right now. But again, unfortunately, we don't play 1 month of baseball. So I'm just hoping, the Astros don't start banging on a trash can again and we get robbed again. So
Oh, well, that never gets old. I mean,
I'll
the
never let
Reds.
that one die.
I mean, that's fair. It's a true sports fan. Once again, the Red Sox have definitely been disappointing. I mean, it's early; they're sitting 10-14, but their lineup should keep them in a lot of games. But their pitching is just I trust just about nobody. A couple of the starters are good. Evaldi's good, but then you get to the bullpen, and it's just like you get kind of nervous. So I don't know. Baseball is a long season. They started off pretty bad last year, and then turned it on, and we're one of the stronger teams down the stretch. So it'll be interesting. I hope they're in the mix because that makes those Yankees Red Sox games in July, August,
Yeah.
that much more exciting.
It's not the same when one team's down. As much as I love to jab you and everyone else when the Yankees are beating up on the Red Sox or vice versa, but it really isn't the same. I know the league everyone wants parity, but it's so much better for the league when you get Yankees Red Sox in the playoffs. I mean, at least Toronto's fun to watch.
Yeah.
They're going to be good. I don't know if this is the year for Toronto. But those young guys they have are just ridiculously good, and it stinks that we're going to be in their division.
Yeah, no, I mean the division's tough for sure. I mean, it's last couple of years been one of the better divisions, and it typically is because usually the Yankees and Red Sox are in the mix. So if one of those other teams are good, all of a sudden this top 3 or 4 is real strong.
Yeah, and it's hard to believe that Tampa just continues to get no credit ever.
Tampa Brady. I mean, it's the winning. It's the Tom Brady effect. Everywhere he goes, championships follow. Just like the lightning. It's contagious, man. He was in Michigan, and the Red Wings were in their dynasty. It's a great little Google if you wanna
I'll
Google.
have to reluctantly read up on that one, and I'll keep a trash can nearby to throw up in.
That was pretty long. I didn't mention Tom Brady till 35 minutes in. No, so it's pretty good.
That's it. You should have waited till. Well, no, never mind. He wears 12. That'd be 12 minutes in. I was thinking 42 for some reason, man. My brain's just over. We've had 2 homestands. The team I work for, my brain's just done.
Well, on that note, Chris, it's always fun to catch up. I
Oh yeah.
appreciate you jumping on. I'm sure, obviously, there's a myriad of topics that you can cover. So we'll get you on again sometime soon. But I appreciate it, man.
Hey, no problem. And just real quick, next time if I'm on this month, I expect a glorious mustache from you.
Okay.
Mustache May. So I think you should work on that. Our whole front office, everyone's got a mustache.
Mustache May. I like that.
It's beautiful.
All right. That's a deal.